You mentioned humor. How, if at all, would you characterize the sound of comedy versus drama?
Well, it was actually really fun doing this because I haven't done much comedy, and I really have wanted to for a while. So, I mean, Wild Mountain Time there was comedy within that, but mostly I had to just play it really straight. But with Mr. Malcolm's List, it was fun because, and once I saw Zowie's performance and her, Julia Thistlethwaite, it was just amazing. And I instantly was like, right, we need flute, we need trills, I just wanted this like frilly, silly, kind of funny sound that was like her mischief and her naughtiness and her kind of mind, like, busy mind. And so that's where all and that predominantly was all woodwind. And I just found that woodwind was so expressive and so funny and didn't get in the way, like you said, with humor and like with dialogue, because it's a lot of dialogue and there wasn't much space really for music. So it was just trying to find these little moments of just kind of peppering things with these little, expressive moments. And I think that's what the woodwind kind of came in and did all of that, which was great. And that was, so that kind of Julia mischief side of the film was predominantly all flutes and piccolo and clarinets.
And there's also an element of, I noticed in your score with some of the more comedic moments of timing and playing with rhythm.
Yeah.
And subverting expectations and sort of, there'd be a gap here. And then, did you laugh as you were?
I did. I really did, because there's some really funny moments, and I think and also it was I enjoyed doing this as well, because like you say that there's a lot of stuff that's not in time or that's out of time, and as a musician you have an expectation of things fitting in a certain time frame, and I really had to fight against that instinct. I had to push against that thing of, no, but it needs to go there for it to finish that 4-bar moment. And it was like, but it can't go there because she's got her joke, it's got to go after that. And actually it was realizing it's fine, no one, no one's there with a metronome, like you can just, but it's funny, it's a hard thing, I think, when you're a musician to miss the timing and to be offbeat and to push something, and it's an uncomfortable feeling, but actually it was a really good thing for me to do, I think.
Jeff Russo, composer Jeff Russo, who's done like Star Trek and a billion other things, he mentioned something to me and when I was speaking to him that really sat well with me about this specific point that you're saying, which was how sort of the dialogue and the actors and what they're saying is, and I'm butchering what he said, but it's something to the degree of like they're always the king and queen or queen. Yes. And so to me, I interpreted what he was saying and sort of in line with what you're saying. It's almost like the dialogue is the melody to a degree. And so it's like, if you have a rhythm where the music might stop, well, the lead is actually going with the punchline, with the joke.
Yeah.
And I find that to be very, because then they're in synergy. It's like the orchestra involves the actual actors.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And I think that is the thing, is that the dialogue is the rhythm, not, and that's creating the rhythm and the timing, and you're just following that. So the music can it becomes, rhythmless in a way, or in a traditional sense, it's all just following and fitting in these little gaps, these little moments, these little reactions.
Zooming out a bit, as an artist, what do you see as your job? What do you see as your goal? What is your if you have an artistic mission statement as a composer, or within the film or outside the film?
I suppose I really do see myself as part of the storytelling team.
Mm-hmm.
And my thread of that is music, so in the same, the DOP is visual, and I really feel that like there is it's just a piece of the bigger picture. And so I really just want my music to tell the story in the best possible way, and to hopefully elevate the movie, elevate the performances, and and just make the film as good as it can be. And I really do see myself as that's my job, and also to fulfill the director's vision and the director's ideas, and somehow be able to translate that into music that they love, music that works for the film. And I suppose in an ideal world, retains something of my own voice within that, something of a signature, something that feels familiar, something that feels authentically me as well. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to completely wash myself out. And, I want it that, because I think my favorite composers have that, where, their music is completely brilliant and working for the film, but there's something in it that I go, oh, is that person? Or is that, because there'll just be these little familiar things within it, then and I enjoy hearing that. I enjoy hearing that person in it too.
It sounds like you're serving your function as the composer, as the, let's call it the sonic part of the storytelling.
Yeah.
Are there particular stories that you're gravitating towards? Is it the collaborators? I'm sure it's a combination of both.
I mean, I think I'm really excited about the idea of trying all sorts of different stories. And I think that to this, at this stage, I do lean towards, I guess my aesthetic or whatever is, I do kind of like something that feels quite classic in a way. Like, I think like we were talking about with melody, and I'm drawn to films that need a score that can feel quite classic and bold and melody and that kind of thing. Those seem to be the things that I'm drawn to, and I also seem to always be drawn to things that have a slightly. Actually, Mr. Malcolm's would not be in this, but in the past, the other things have always had a slightly like otherworldly aspect to them. Like I tend to really respond to things that just have something in them that's a bit off, or a bit heightened, or a bit weird, or a bit special, or a bit magic, or a bit,
Yeah.
That's what I loved about, when I did Mary Shelley, and actually, Amount of Time as well, there was just this kind of, this slight otherness, which I really enjoy. I love things that have a kind of mystery to them, or strangeness, and I also just am really drawn to things that are really kind of beautiful as well. Like, I am a bit of a sucker for just like things that are really, really beautiful and really emotional.
I'm curious how you feel about the other end of the spectrum, like the ugly and the dark. The ugly, dark, and twisted, let's say, that which we might not want to endure ourselves, but perhaps explore the deep corners of our recessed, repressed minds.
Yeah, I'd love to do something on that, on that side of things, because I love, I'd be really into doing something like that. It'd be really exciting.
I personally would love to hear what you would do for something like that, because I find it to be, it's hard for me as an artist to summons as many monumental melodic themes that are really dark. They tend to be these sort of like, two note, like, or Jaws even, ba da 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 da.
Like totally, like 3-note little,
and I'm sort of yearning for, I feel like there's another layer out there. It's like an untapped mine that we need a handful of composers to just go there.
Yeah.
I'd be very curious to see it. What movies, shows, or composers, artists, whether music or not, composers or not, really resonate with you and have influenced you?
Jerry Goldsmith, and again, because she just did the most amazing melodies. And Michael Nyman has been a huge influence. And then I think Rachel Portman. I mean, I absolutely love everything she writes. I think she's got this kind of exquisite, sorrowful, wistful, beautiful, I just love her music. Who else I love? I mean, I'm very excited by, people like Max Richter, and again, Johann Johannson was my, was one of my favorites. Everything he wrote, again, I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was, and he was a master of simplicity, and how fewer notes can I use to cause absolute devastation to your soul, and he managed to do it, with like 3 or 4 notes, and it was just like incredibly powerful. And I just loved the simplicity of his music and of Max's music. And I'm a big fan of, Oliver Arnold and Dustin O'Halloran and Hauschka, and I love that all of those composers and what they do, the kind of delicate fragility and the how beautiful the textures, and I think there's some really exciting people working, and I think who else? I mean, there's just so many. I'm trying to think what I've kind of been influenced mostly by. There's a huge Danny Elfman fan, a huge Randy Newman fan. I absolutely love Randy Newman as an artist and also as a composer. And his, chord progressions and his strings are just like no one else. I can't think.
That's plenty.